I will unless you want the job. I forgot my tape recorder.
You're way better.
Good evening. Today is Thursday, August 9th, 2018. This is the monthly meeting of the Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission. The time is 7:03 p.m. In lieu of roll call, I'd ask my members starting to my far right to introduce themselves for tonight's meeting.
Tara Wolf.
Kathy Chappell, secretary.
I'm Donald Webb, the president,
Mark Rim.
and Ron Mote, our vice president, and Dr. Kaiser, the school board representative, are absent tonight. First thing up, I would ask to review the minutes, any changes, additions, and if not, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, minutes are approved. Next thing is we have the bills. The following bills were submitted for payment. Crossroads Engineers, $11,050. Boardman Enterprises, they're the ones that we agreed to help with the lawn mowing and maintenance of the areas around Beech Grove to keep them beautiful, $590. Crossroads Engineers, $4,350. Peters Municipal Consultants, $725.64. Lewis Caps, $806 or $806.60, excuse me, and our sewer bill of $1875. So the way I will do this is I will ask for Kathy and Mark and myself to make a motion to approve Crossroads Engineering, those bills of $11,050 and $4,300.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I'll ask Tara to join us in approving the rest of the bills. I'll ask a motion for those.
Motion to approve the bills.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all bills have been approved, and I'll pass this around for everybody to sign. We don't have a lot, so Mr. Mayor, if you want to hit it off first, I always like to hear from you. Interesting information.
The roundabout at Arlington and Churchman, NDOT, Brad, who's the Public Works Director, met with NDOT a couple of weeks ago, and they are scheduled to what they call let the project open for bids in July, after July 1st of next year. They informed Brad they want to move that up to the spring of next year, so which is about a 2 or 3 months difference. We're ready. I mean, we'll be ready for it, so it doesn't make any difference, but I just think that's a good news for us. And that's in a TIF area for you folks, so that's why I share it with you. Thompson Road, same way with the Thompson Road project. NDOT, we were awarded funding for it. NDOT wants to move that project way up.
Good.
So it wouldn't surprise me that by the 1st of 2021, that project's underway. The reason is the danger involved in the conditions out there, so they've recognized it, so they want to move that project way up. We did a stormwater project out on Churchman Avenue where it splits off and comes into Churchman bypass. That's done now. It's been a drainage problem for a long time. It's fixed now, and that's the last piece of the puzzle before we get to the roundabout out there. The building at 3rd and Main, which touches a TIF district on the northwest corner, he submitted plans. Mark's seen them, and maybe Mark will want to comment on it, but he submitted plans to upgrade that building. You wanted to comment on it?
He's going to divide it into 3 different areas. And right now, he's just showing where he's going to redo one portion where they're going to move their office into it. This looks like it's going to be pretty good. It's something we need. It's going to have the building occupied, and everything looked like it's going to be top notch. A couple questions were raised on it, but they were taken care of. It'll be good.
The brewery across the street, You might know more about it than me.
I met with them a couple weeks ago, just kind of a friendly, cursory walkthrough to see how they're doing and make any recommendations to help speed them along. They're still shooting to have it open by the end of this month, 1st of September. They're coming along a ways. Well, they had some other things they wanted to do that weren't on the plans, but we walked them through the process to get that taken care of. And it's going to be a nice addition for Beech Grove. They're going to put a window in so you can see the process when you're sitting inside, see how the beer is brewed. They're going to put handicap accessibility to come in from the backside because they know there's a need for that. Because in the front, there's a big step and it wouldn't work. So that was one thing we worked them through, and they're going to have a couple other things they're going to just enhance that corner, because that's across the street from the other building we were just discussing. So it's going to be a nice addition for Beech Grove. I've talked to several people on Main Street, and they're real happy that it's going to be coming in. It's going to attract, hopefully, a lot of people into the town.
The city is going to apply for funding to redo the facades on Main Street. The plan is done, and it has been approved by Okra. So they're going to present it to the council at the September 4th, or no, at the August 20th special meeting at 7 p.m. And then there's a couple things that has to be done. And then they're going to go through the timeline to the council. And then hopefully by the end of November, we will apply for some funding to do that project. So that's coming real soon. We're going to apply for more federal funding for road construction. The second round, which is very rare, but we got invited to bid through NDOT, opens up August 6th through the end of September. So we are getting ready to put a packet together and bid, or not bid, but request more funding to fix more roads. So
Have certain roads already in mind, or just,
yes, South 4th. This go around, and then we'll do it again in the spring. South 4th, south of Churchman. There's about we've whittled it down to about a dozen roads that are bad, and we'll be getting those pretty soon. So
That strip paving, where those take up like a strip and then put down asphalt, how effective is that?
I don't like to do it. I like to take the road out and start over.
Well, I mean, they did it heavily on Thompson, and I saw some along Grovewood. And the reason I'm asking is because when we get to January and February, I'm just wondering if it's gonna hold up or if it's gonna come apart.
The reason we did it on Grovewood was to give us a little time,
Yeah, I understand.
because to pave Grovewood is about $1.5 million. So that gives us a little time. But the clerk and I, we're on the same page as far as, if you pay $100,000 and they give you $400,000, you ought to do it every time.
Absolutely.
So why not? So anytime there's an opportunity to get funding, we're going to apply for it. NDOT is going to be, speaking of your project on the interstate up there, NDOT is going to be, at that same meeting that Brad went to, they talked about they're going to go up on that bridge and grind. You know how you, before you get to the bridge and after you get off the bridge, you got that big bump? They're going to grind those bumps down.
Oh, good.
So that's going on. And then the city of Indianapolis did the striping on Emerson Avenue for us. Terry George did that. The old Starbucks, I've been told the old Starbucks building is sold,
Oh, good.
but I'll verify it. That's what I have been told.
Any hint as to,
Have no clue.
that's been for sale for a long time.
Yes. We meet again on, with NDOT on the train depot on September the 25th, and I invite one member of the RDC to join me at that meeting.
Do you have a time on it?
Oh, Don.
I'm sorry. We got time on that. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have even asked that.
I'll send that note out and the reason.
We'll have September's meeting before then
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So
And that's, and the reason, I try to, if it's in a TIF district, I try to include somebody from the RDC so they have, so they can come back and relay the information. But we're going to meet on that. We're going to meet with the developer and we're going to meet with NDOT, the manager of the rail program,
Where would you meet at?
and downstairs in the office.
yeah, I'd probably be free for that.
Yeah. Two of you, as long as it ain't three.
Right.
The two of you is welcome,
I wouldn't mind going that.
Okay.
Both of us.
Need to back up.
Are you off then?
If it, well, it would be during the day, right? Oh, never mind.
Well, the 25th, I always think that.
Never mind.
That's the Tuesday.
We can deal with it at the next meeting, but yeah, we'll definitely. So there is seriousness to this then. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about and important is two things. Both of them involve the hospital property. One is, if you drive by there now, you're going to see a large amount of sewer pipe. And it's rather large pipe. What they're doing, and I've been waiting for this for a long time, and one of the reasons that I ran for reelection was I wanted to see this project through. And they're almost done. Now they're putting in new sanitary sewer lines for that neighborhood north of the hospital. They've disconnected all of the old sewers. Now they're putting in new sewer line. And they're also putting in a separate stormwater lines. So there's separation. So now there won't be any question on runoff or any question on combination. And they will capture all of the water that comes on that property. And that was a point of contention for many, 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 many years. So back when they first said they were going to tear the hospital down, we hired a company, Shrewsbury, to look after our best interests when it comes to not only the demolition of the hospital, but the utilities. And to St. Francis' credit and Brandenburg's credit, they have done a very, very good job of closing out these utilities and preparing the property for whatever is going to happen in the future. So I'm very happy about it. They'll be done pretty soon. And they did exactly what they said they were going to do. Now, that was the first part. The second part is I have a meeting tomorrow with the president of the Franciscan Alliance and a gentleman from Ton and Blank, their construction company, to talk about the future of the property. And I won't invite anybody to that meeting. Could be, I told my wife at dinner, this might be the most important meeting I've had since I've been mayor. And so I'm looking forward to it. Once I get an understanding of, and I think this meeting is about what's going to happen to the property in the future. So once I know what's going to happen, then the next meeting I will invite you folks to attend. And they just asked for a meeting with me and them, nobody else. So, and, you know, I wanted to build a fire station and police station there, and they were prepared to give me the land to do it, but I could never get that done. So I don't see them, they are besides the greenway, and they are 100% in on this greenway. They want it coming through their property. They want the greenway. They are all in, and they are looking forward to its construction. But they're going to do something else with that property. They're not just going to let it sit. So when I find out, I will let you know. I will share it with you, and then any meeting after that, I will include you folks. But tomorrow, I'm just telling you, I'm just being brutally honest with you. Tomorrow is a private closed-door meeting. So, and I don't want you to hear it from, well, the mayor met, I seen the president of Franciscan come in here, the mayor was with him. Something's going on. So anyway, that's my report. Any questions?
Yeah, regarding the Greenway, do you know when there's going to be another meeting?
I don't know.
Because our last one was February 26th.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're,
I thought we were supposed to require to have them more often than
I
that.
thought we had one, no, we didn't. Yeah, I thought there was one on the Greenway, but it wasn't hosted by us. I thought that wasn't there one earlier this summer?
There was one up at the hospital, remember?
Yeah.
February 26th. I was
Up in the
there.
medical arts, old medical arts building. I don't know when the next one is.
I think we just need to schedule it probably in September or October.
It's coming. I mean, it's coming, and it's going to get here real fast. I mean, July the 1st of 2020 is not very far away.
Right.
And there's some things that have to be decided. So I'm looking forward to it. Now, I do know for sure next year that 15th and 16th Street will be redone, and there'll be a trailhead on St. Francis. That will happen in 2019. That'll be part of the paving program. So that's going to happen. So all of those roads around the park have been redone to accommodate the Greenway. And then Byland will be redone next year as well, from 9th to 12th to accommodate the Greenway. Any questions? Everybody getting their emails?
I assume so.
Okay. Lynn has stepped away from the IT, and a gentleman, our Indy Teledata is doing the IT now, so if you have problems. All right, that's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Earlier, I want to say it's a couple of weeks ago, I was invited to the school. As you guys know, Mr. Lamb had various questions about the RDC and why do we keep it, why do we need it? And so we met with Jeff Peters, who kind of understood our RDC. And what's interesting is, as you guys know, we pay about $580 a year on our bonds, and we will be able to retire those, I think, in 2021, a year early if we want, or 2022. But the TIFs basically will run till 2030, and then they're done. And that'll be the end of it. So 2030, I mean, you could create, and I think the way they work is, when you create a TIF, it's based on future growth. So like, right now, like, Kinetric, say that's the TIF district, and its value, just for sake, say at $1 million. Well, if they put $500,000 in it, and it goes up to $1.5 million, we would capture that increased value. But once the TIFs expire, you know, if you try to put a TIF back on there, it started at $1.5 million, and so after that, you only capture what goes above that. Is the way I kind of understand it. So, with that, what I'm kind of pointing out here is we've got roughly $8 million in unspent money between now and 2030. Because you figure 2022 through, you know, 2023, if we didn't pay them off early, we'd have a little over $1 million. And it may increase to maybe $9.5, $10 million, but conservatively about $8 million. And I was talking to Jeff, and if there are projects on the horizon that we wanted to do, you know, we can capture that money and use it now, per se. But, you know, and the interesting thing is, you know, people were under the impression that, well, if you get rid of the RDC, all this money that's been taken will just go back to these places. Well, as Jeff pointed out, it won't be nearly as much as you think, because there's, what does he say, 16?
Yeah, I
Was
said
it
there's
16?
16 or 17 overlapping taxing districts, and it's not, the money goes back, the taxes on some funds go down.
Right. So like how Mr. Lamb thought the school would get 53% of what we were, that the TIF was taken. No, it won't. It would be substantially less. So that's why the RDC for right now is still a good thing to have in place. And again, it's kind of got a sunset provision in it, and that 2030 we lose the TIFs. I don't know if they'll change the law then to do stuff, but that's kind of where we are. So I guess long-term, we need to think about what are major projects that we'd want to do. You know, and they don't have to be major. I mean, we've been acting very responsible, in my opinion, in keeping and paying off our debt, getting rid of the bad loans, and, you know, acting cautiously, because again, I've seen, you know, cities spend millions or give millions to private businesses that have then gone bankrupt or left or never been successful. And we're not in that boat. We haven't given away a bunch of money to people that have then left. So, you know, we're in a pretty good position, but I mean, the next 5 years will be, you know, debt-free, and then we'll have $1 million a year. So maybe not that, maybe none of us will be on the board then, but it's still something that we probably start looking to lay the foundation for the future for.
And of course, it's always possible if there's a different area that needs redevelopment within the city, if that should arise, based on a new plan. We
Right.
haven't had a plan since 2008, I think. And you could have a different TIF area.
Yeah, and I mean, I mean, to me, the last areas of undeveloped are obviously the CSX property. You know, and I don't know of any other large tracts of land that we can really, you know, you could say, well, we could do this or that too. I mean, are there areas in Beech Grove that need to be redeveloped? Yeah, I mean, I would love, you know, Churchman Plaza, you know, is definitely in need of redevelopment. I would, you know, I mean, what Beech Grove really needs is land to build high-end houses. And when I say high-end houses, houses that are worth 150 to 500,000, because we just don't have a lot of that housing. And that housing is what middle and upper middle income class want. And those are the types of people we need to try to attract to Beech Grove, and we're just very limited on that. And how you fix that, I don't know.
One thing, and we talked about it today, the clerk and I, was that the three divisions of government, the RDC, the civil city, and then the sewage works utility, all of those have done very well in reducing their liability. And as a matter of fact, by the end of 2022, the city will have no more long-term debt. So for next year, we did not want to take on any long-term debt for next year. We need to continue to stay the course, and we've done really well with our spending. We pay as we go, and I don't see anything wrong with that. We're going to take care of the employees again, and we just need to stay on track, and maybe in 2022, when the last bond issue retires, then we do something to replace it. But for next year, we just get that much closer to being out of debt. And you know, as well as I do, what we walked into.
Oh,
And how we've gotten this far is a pretty good story.
I mean, it'd be nice to not always be bumping up against the circuit breaker and, you know, getting long-term trying to figure. I mean, the biggest thing, when we look around Beech Grove, we look at Irvington under redevelopment and the businesses that have gone there and how it's, you know, I think about Irvington in the 1980s and it was not a pretty place. And I look at Fountain Square, and Fountain Square from Shelby Street all the way down, you know, Virginia Avenue. I mean, it's the transformation that has just taken place, and you're starting to see it in the neighborhoods around it, but, you know, and that's still what we got to try to capture. And I mean, I think, you know, the Main Street Development Grant is a great idea. And, because, I mean, if you look at Beech Grove from 8th Avenue up to about 6th, there's a lot of vibrant buildings in that area. They look nice, and there's a lot of activity. It's the east end of Main Street that's still kind of lacking, you know? And, you know, how we, and again, those are unique businesses, because why? They have to be able to deal with low parking. You know, there can't be, you can't have a business where you're gonna have 150, 200 people in there because there's just no parking around.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, they gotta be unique, and that uniqueness is tough. And, you know, then the other thing I think is figuring out that building over on 17th and, you know, where the old hospital was. That something's gotta happen on that side.
I think what could happen would be if they decide to do something with the St. Francis, that will kickstart that.
That's what I'm hoping. Again,
Probably.
we've talked. a lot of it's gonna be Franciscan. What Franciscan does with that property and how they develop, if they develop it at all, and if they make it grass and stuff like that, so be it. But if they develop that or put some type of light, commercial, either buildings or industry in there, you know, that's a win for us. But, I mean, that's an awful lot of land to sit there. And I mean,
I just want you to, think about this. They are astute business people, and they are not gonna let 14 acres of prime real estate just sit there.
yeah,
Just think about it, I mean,
oh, yeah.
they're not gonna do it, they're gonna do something. And I think they'll do something where they still control the property. They just don't know what.
You'll find out shortly, I
Find out
assume.
shortly.
So, but yeah, those were things that we talked about that we, and again, I'm not saying this board, but it's something that's gonna be out there that eventually we're gonna,
Well, I'm curious, with this meeting with Mr. Lamb, did he understand after talking to Jeff? Or is he still convinced that there's,
it's still kinda like trying to get grass to grow on asphalt. There might be a crack or two where a seed falls in and the grass comes out, but
so is he still suggesting the
I
RDC give
think-
up TIF districts or
Well,
disband
I think-
altogether?
well, no, I think we couldn't disband altogether until at least we paid off the debt.
Okay.
Because the way it would work is if for some reason the RDC shut down tomorrow, our, whatever's left on it, like 2.2 million or whatever is left, that would default to the city to pay.
Right.
Now, what would happen is the money, that 1,080,000 or whatever we're getting in a year, that money would just spread out. So the city may not even have enough money to cover that. That's why it would be a horrific idea to do away with the RDC.
Even if you pay your debt off on time, my recommendation to you is to not disband.
No, I don't, I think, like I say, we've got till 2030.
Don't you, Bob?
I agree, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
Oh, I don't want to, I'm just
No,
curious
but
as to
that's
what,
kind of where and that's what
well, he was there that night, I mean,
you
that's,
can ask Robert over and over again. Jeff kept telling him, it will not be what you think it will be. It'll be much less.
Yeah, I think Mr. Lamb fully understands that it's not in anybody's best interest before 2030, around there, to do anything. After that, it's a decision that collectively.
I mean, my goal and my thoughts have always been, and it's been more reinforced lately as I read, that we should do things that help the community of Beech Grove. Like Dr. Kaiser talked about an amphitheater behind Central.
I've always wanted
I
that.
don't think that is a bad idea. You could tie it close to Main Street, you could help them, but the one thing I don't wanna do is XYZ Enterprises wants $100,000 to renovate a building. And they're gonna sell flowers out of it, and then we got 2 other flower shops in Beech Grove saying, well, where's my money? I've just been, like I say, I use Greenwood over and over again. They gave $6.5 million to a company that didn't hire anybody and never produced one
Right.
thing, and they'll pay on that for 20 years. You wanna see another example, Carmel. Carmel's spent $2.5 billion in debt, and they're still spending it, but in another 5 to 8 years, all that stuff they built and put in there, they're gonna have to start fixing it, because as you guys know, if you own a house or a car, after 5 to 8 years, little things start to happen. And are they gonna have the money to do all that? Probably not. So what are they gonna do? They're gonna raise taxes. And when everybody brags about, well, I live in Carmel, I don't pay anything in taxes. Well, you're gonna have to pay for the Palladium. The Palladium's gonna need painting. The Palladium's gonna need new chairs and stuff. And it wasn't a function of government that it should have been built, and that's what I don't wanna get into here. That's why I love the Greenway. The Greenway was something that benefited the entire community. Now, personally, my thought is if we had the money, and, Franciscan wasn't gonna do anything, one of the things we need that I've seen, we need an aquatic center or park. That is an amenity that many communities like Plainfield, you see it down in Franklin, Greenwood, they have a real nice one, but even out over on the southwest side, they just have an area with like playground equipment where the water squirts out of the ground and you'll see kids over there playing, but
Right.
we really don't have anything like that. And now, again, it's an amenity, but, not having a public pool, and those of us who've lived in Beech Grove a little bit of time remember the Olympia Club. I mean, that's where I was taught to swim. I think that's where most people that are above the age of 50 were probably taught to swim or hung out there.
Community center.
And, you know, it would be nice to have some, and that would be something that, to me, I would count as redevelopment, that if we could find a way to do that and get the money and maybe a public-private partnership, because like YMCA and those type do it, I would love to bring something like that to Beech Grove.
So how did it end with Mr. Lamb? Is he,
I think,
he's calm for now.
yeah, I think he's calm for now.
for now?
I think his goal, and it's an honorable one, he wants to try to get, he's worried about the school system. He wants to get more money. They have things they need, and he wants to pay the teachers more. There's stuff that needs to be fixed. And he looks at the money that's taken from TIF districts that would have, in his mind, would have gone to the high school.
Right.
He says, well, if we had this money, we could pay our teachers more. We could fix this and that. And I understand that. I don't disagree with that idea. But, you know, like we said, Dr. Kaiser has a budget to live on just like the rest of us do. I mean, I'd love to buy replacement windows for my house. I'd love to paint, you know, the wood siding. But we have a budget too, and we can't do that. So we just have to kind of live with things until we can. So I think he's calmed down on that. I don't think you'll see him here demanding it, but, you know, it was a good meeting. I think Jeff Peters was excellent in explaining stuff. And Dr. Kaiser was gonna, he was gonna work with that one consultant on getting an exact
Yeah.
breakdown.
He was going to get some figures from the school and from one or two consultants that the school
Uses all the time.
basis.
That basically would say,
Projections and.
right, if the RZC went away, X amount of dollars would go here, here, here,
Right.
here, and that would be an even more accurate picture. But I guess the thing I look at is, we theoretically have got about $8 million that we can, you know, I'm talking between 2022 and 2030, that we can use on projects in Beech Grove. And, you know, again, working with the city council and the mayor, it might not be a bad idea to start thinking about a plan on what would we want to do. Or do we just want to hold off and do, as the mayor said, kind of a pay-as-you-go, well, this road's bad, we need this, or this is bad, we need this, because we've done that in the past. I mean, that one year, we spent, what, $100 and some thousand on our park system, put in a new bathroom and some other stuff that was needed. And again, I think those are enhanced improvements, because as anybody who was here, when was it, Monday night, or when they had the night out at Down Challis Park?
That was Tuesday, I think.
Tuesday.
Monday was city council, Tuesday was night out.
Yeah, and I mean, it was packed down there. And I mean,
Good.
it was nice to have a nice facility there to have it under, nice bathrooms, nice volleyball court. All those things were being utilized. And I mean, those are things that people like in a city. And, you know, I have no problem if, you know, if somebody wants money for that, then we've got it, let's do it, because it's
You
gonna make
remember
our life
when,
better.
back in 13, we did the creek, south of the bridge, we did the creek stabilization? We're gonna have to do that north of the walk bridge, from the walk bridge to the bridge on 13. That's, especially on the east bank, is washing away, so that's gonna have to be addressed pretty soon. That's a big project.
Yeah. It's a shame they can't dig it a little deeper so they can handle more water. But yeah, I mean, and again, those are things that would be, to me, good for, like, if you needed the RDC's help, would be good for that. Why? Because the city doesn't necessarily carry that money, and if we had it, and I look at the parks as an asset. You know, parks, schools, those are community assets. that will draw people here and drive up the property values, which, if you look, the assessed value of Beech Grove is going up. Now, is it going up as fast as the communities around us? That I don't know. You'd have to ask a real estate agent, but I know it's going up, and that's a good thing. You know, I was just screwing around today, and I saw many houses that, 10 years ago were listed for 75,000 that were now listed for over 100,000. Now, I hope they get that, because, you can always ask, but you may not get, but that to me is a good sign.
I think, looking forward from the debt retirement, I think the RDC needs to have some work sessions where it looks at its 2008 plan and see what.
No, I saw that once a long time ago. I'm not even sure where it is anymore.
I've got a copy.
I mean, because if you look at what the vision was back then, 10 years now, that's the other thing is we spent all that money on that plan, but we never had the money or the people to implement that plan. And it's like, that's why I'm not necessarily, it's not enough to pay $200,000 for a plan that you're never going to implement and say, well, we did.
I mean, I'm not suggesting.
No, I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying, you're right.
Do it.
And,
In-house.
and I mean, I don't know when you do it, because next year is an election year, so things like that are not, well, I'm just saying, things like that during election year are not popular to talk about, because the next thing you know, somebody's saying, well, you want to spend $300,000 on birdhouses or something silly. I'm just saying, next year is going to be a nasty year in Beech Grove. Why? Because it's local elections, and, it'll be yelling and smearing, and then when it's done, January 1st, 2020, that'll be the time to start having adult conversations about what the future of Beech Grove is. Well, seriously.
Probably.
Find a way till then.
I mean, there's, in all levels of government, I mean, the free spending is going to come to an end at some point in time. The debt's unsustainable. And I mean, I look at Indianapolis, I'm reading stories about how the outlying counties are complaining about how bad our roads are in Indianapolis. And, to their point, Raymond Street is still horrible. I mean, they've patched it, but I mean, I drive it every day. And when I get to Beech Grove, the roads are much better. But, there's a few spots here, and I mean, Grove would be in the obvious one for the amount of traffic it gets. And then, it bothers me when I hear Thompson Avenue isn't scheduled to be repaved until 2035. I mean, these are things that cities have to really focus on, and it may mean cutting from somewhere else to do it, but it needs to be done. So yeah, I agree. I think workshops and figuring out who wants to lead and stuff. Because that's the other thing. You have to have someone with vision who says, well, I want Beech Grove to be this way or that way. I don't know about you, but I think we're probably getting a little fatigued.
You think?
Think?
I mean, the generous pay raises have been nice, but
The hours are bad.
I just can't wait to get it and cash it and go shop.
I'm telling you. But yeah, those were things we kind of talked about in that meeting and had me thinking. So I guess going forward, it's just something to keep in mind. But September's meeting, Kevin will be here with a plan, or we'll cancel him and find someone else.
When do we have to do a budget for the RDC for next
We need
year?
to, well, what I'm hoping is we can discuss what we're gonna have in next year's budget. It'll be the 134 that's next year, correct?
Only next year is, only next year for the Greenway 65
65, okay.
for 19.
So 65,000, because we committed to that, so that'll go to the green. Is the 134 then in the next year, or then there's 65,000?
No. Everything that we're doing now is totally engineering.
Right.
And next year, in the engineering, it's not very much. Then you tack on the cost of construction. I think the cost of construction is like 120, 130.
Okay, so then 20 will be 120, 30.
And what happens with that is, let's say like NDOT, let the project, which means they put it out for bid on July the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
7 weeks before they let it out for bid, 7 weeks before July 1st is when NDOT will send us a bill for our match. And then that's when we pay everything. And then the only thing we are out is construction inspection, which is part of that as well, part of that formula. And then we have no other obligation. The NDOT does all the bids, awards, all of that. The only thing that our part is the Public Works Director chooses who the inspector is for the project.
So basically, we have about 10 to 15,000 a year that we can kind of spend. You know, the RDC I think takes it, you know, so if you look at what we have to spend, that's about what we have. So 2020, we can meet in January, vote to give the $130,000 and call it a year. We really won't have any money after that. But we haven't spent any money this year, and we'll have another 50 or 60,000 next year. So realistically, we'll have about 150 to 160,000, I believe. I'd have to look for the signage. So we could get a good start on that. And again,
Not a bad position to be in.
and I think getting the 2 beech groves up there and getting the landscaping in around it, I think the landscaping probably, you know, I guess my thought is get the 2 signs in and start landscaping it. The signage over the bridge probably would be last because it's going to be the most expensive and it's going to take the most work to work with NDOT on putting it up. Because I mean, there's going to be a ton of, well, we got to see your specs. How are you going to mount it to the bridge? You know, this and that. So
As much as I think that'd look nice, I'm not so sure what we're planning to do now won't be enough.
and it may very well be. I mean, if you drive by Yorktown, they just got simple signs that are lit that say Yorktown.
I think.
But I mean, what's going to stink is the hardest thing for me is going to be that we still will have the panhandlers up there. And I think that maybe the city council should pass an ordinance that they have to wear Welcome to Beech Grove t-shirts as they're begging for money.
Well, that's why I didn't like the design. It looked kind of like a welcoming bench. That's why I didn't like that.
Well, I mean, that's city property. We could have no trespassing there. You know, I mean, it's I mean, here's the thing, it's a problem everywhere.
Right.
I mean, you know, I never thought I'd see it, but panhandling has become an accepted form of employment. Well, I mean, seriously, it has. It's become an accepted form of employment, and, you know, you guys know, because everybody here is fairly older in age, 30 years ago, you never saw that except, you know, by the worst people in the worst areas, and you see it everywhere. You'll see it on the corner, Greenwood, and Whiteland, wherever. You'll see people out there doing it, and it's like, you know, it's just very sad. And I agree with you. I'm worried about that. I don't want it turning into a camp, which, again, I'd hope that, you know, we could work with, you know, the city would work with the police and all those people to make sure that, you know, it's protected. But I think as we get it, again, I think if we get it cleaned up and landscaped, that exit will look really nice. And
I do
again, I
too.
think it will help Beech Grove.
I'm all in for the landscaping.
Because,
Me too.
again, anything we can do to improve our image, we have to do.
You know, I had often thought about rounding up about 100 volunteers and just go down there one wipe it out.
I will tell you this, and again, it's something, if we could do it, you know, Lilly has their day of service. And just as an example, about 7 years ago, they shut down I-70 basically from the Raymond Expressway all the way downtown. And they planted hundreds of trees and shrubs and put down mulch and put up some type of Indian,
And then they put up ugly sculptures.
and then they put up a tribute to the
Yes.
Jets. Then they put up, well, I mean, here's
That was
the,
the George Jetson.
well, yeah, well, you gotta, but here's the thing.
Just that one.
Yeah, I mean, right, but it was,
Looks like
it was
Dr.
the,
Seuss.
it was the
Seuss stuff.
IUPUI is the School of Art. They had kids doing that. They had like a bunch of different organizations that pitched in to do all this. And it looked nice for about 3.5 months. But the city of Indianapolis never maintained it. They've never done a thing to it. So now you've got totem poles sitting there with weeds around them and it looks stupid.
It looks
and it
awful.
looks trashy. And that's where, again, we've got to make sure that we keep this thing looking nice. Because again, it'll say a lot about our city. And I think what you'd see if we did it, you'd see other areas start, Carmel has it in some other areas, but like you might see Greenwood start doing that with other people. But again, I think it's important for our image to do it.
Sure, and it's like if you start keeping your yard nicer, what does your neighbor do?
Well, and to your
Same
point,
thing.
Mine don't do anything.
well, I'll tell you, you know, again, to your point though, I drive
They're
around
terrible.
and the yards look a lot nicer. And I think the houses look a little nicer.
Oh, come down Alton Street.
I will, I have. You know, again, we've been blessed because we don't have those neighbors. But, you know,
You want them?
not really. Because, I mean, that only makes you want to move that much faster. But, I mean, I think the city really looks nice. I think there's areas for improvement, but, you know, there's always areas for improvement. But, again, that gets back to, we've got $8 million. You know, what do we want to do? What do we think? And we probably need to make a-
Amphitheater, flip, I always wanted to flip houses, but I never did find out whether that was allowed. Buy a house, fix it up, sell it, buy another house, fix it up, sell it. Foreclosed house.
It's allowed, but here's the problem. You have to declare the area blighted.
Is that right?
You can't, you're not supposed to spend RDC TIF money on, single-family, residential development. You could build multiple, residential, but you have to allow for low income if you're gonna do that.
That's the last thing we need.
We ought to organize that weekend roundup and go up there and get about 100 people and go up there and wipe that out. 20 people got weed eaters. Pick
Well,
up
here's
trash.
the thing.
Well,
you-
doesn't the school have to have, don't the
got-
students have to
yeah.
do some things?
They have to do community service as a part of their graduation.
Couldn't
mean-
that be it?
It could be.
Well, yeah, I mean, we,
Although probably not using the weed eaters because of
Liability, but
liability issues. but-
picking up trash?
Yes, of course.
picking up trash, and here's the thing, you could have the police out there with their little lights on to slow people down. You could have, you know, you could work with, you know, I think I agree, I think it's a positive idea.
Because it'd be amazing, because it doesn't cost you anything to pick up trash.
No, it doesn't. Well, again, we could have DPW out there with a trash truck that we just dump it in, and it's off to the dump.
I mean, the students could pick up the trash and then other adults could come through later with the weed eaters and without the trash. Then that would be.
I think that'd be a great idea. Good community project.
I agree. I mean, when the last community project of that scale, I think, was when they painted the wall down there on Emerson Avenue that was holding back the Amtrak dirt. Now, I don't know if I particularly like that brown color. I wouldn't mind something a little more lively, but it looked a heck of a lot better than it did. So, that's all I had. I probably went a little too long, I'm sorry. Anybody have anything else? Well, if nobody has
Dennis
anything.
does.
Huh?
Oh, I thought you were walking
If
back to the
nobody has
podium.
anything else, I will ask for a motion to adjourn and thank everybody for coming and volunteering their time.
I will move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I'll second it.
Meeting was adjourned at 7:54, and I was joking about us getting paid. We do not get paid, so